Okay guys, welcome back. It's good to see you, and hope you guys are doing well again. I have rearranged my video equipment and lighting a little bit. Hopefully my glare that I had on my glasses and so forth is better this time, and maybe you can see a little better and see what I'm thinking. See my eyes, okay? It's a little cooler today too, but it's still a little bit warm today. So and humid, so yeah. So again, these videos are uncut and kind of just like we'd be in classroom. Today we're on chapter 18. Okay, chapter 18 is battery service. All right, battery testing and service. Chapter 18. This video won't be as long as the battery basics. Okay, just going to tell you right up front, it's not going to be that long. All right, but I do want to run through this a little bit. I also want to run 3 separate tests, and I'm going to do that on the vehicles I have here. I have my Jeep here and my Yukon here. So we're going to use those vehicles to aid us in our test. You'll also find worksheets on Moodle. Okay, there should be 3 worksheets there that you can download and print and use during the video. Okay, so number 1 is battery state of charge test, which is what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to make 3 separate videos here for these 3 separate tests. Okay, so we're going to do the battery state of charge test, which is number 43. Okay, that's what we're going to do in this video. But then we're also going to do a battery capacity test, which is number 44, and then we're going to do a key off battery drain test, which is a real fun test, which is number 42. Okay, so you want to have in this video you want to have that first one ready, number 43. We're going to do that as part of this video, and that's where our, excuse me, that's where our book starts out too. We start on page 246. It actually starts talking about battery service safety considerations, but then the first test that it does is this state of charge test or battery voltage test. Okay, so we're going to do just first 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of chapter 18 in this video. So again, it won't be all that long. I hope everybody is staying safe. Hope you're keeping your distance from everybody. I'm a little bit more casual today. As you can see, I've got my Grave Digger t-shirt on. So, but it is still a little warm in here. And it is Friday afternoon, and hopefully nobody fires up a lawnmower. If they fire up the lawnmower, you'll be able to hear it in here real well. So let's move on. Page 246, chapter 18. Hazards. We talked about in the battery basic deal that batteries contain acid and release explosive gases. All right, this is part of the normal operating of the battery and charging system. They release these gases, so we have to be very careful around them. The hydrogen and oxygen. They're very flammable, very explosive in a gas form particularly. Okay? Safety precautions. To help prevent physical injury, damage to the vehicle, always adhere to the following safety procedures. These are good right here, okay? When working on any electrical component on a vehicle, disconnect the negative battery cable. Now they almost always tell you to do that in any electrical service procedure, okay? They will tell you, step 1, disconnect the negative battery cable. Well, that's not a bad idea, particularly for some repairs or a lot of repairs. But I can tell you from experience and practice that we don't often disconnect the negative battery cable during testing of things. And most of the time, if you're doing electrical work, you need to have things where you can power them up and use them. Okay, and you're testing for power, and you're testing for ground, and so forth. But there are cases where you need to disconnect the battery negative cable before servicing some components. One that comes to mind, you maybe already know this, is a starter motor. Okay. Starter motor, alternator, those are 2 main things because they both have battery power to them all the time. I mean, like full battery power on large cables to both of those components all the time. So if you are working on a starter particularly, because it's kind of tight up in there, and you're trying to get that positive cable off and you touch ground with your wrench, yeah, you're going to see some sparks, you're going to start doing some welding, okay? So anytime you take a starter off, anytime you take an alternator off, for sure, disconnect that negative battery cable. And we're going to look at a vehicle today that has 2 batteries. okay? It's a gas engine, but most diesel engines have 2 batteries, most large diesel engines. And so you're going to want to disconnect both negative cables in that case, okay? Because if you leave one of the negative cables hooked up, you still got 1 battery that's working, okay? So tip there, disconnect both cables if there's 2 batteries. All right? Wear eye protection, goggles preferred when working around a battery. So I do have my eye protection with me today that I'll be using here in a minute when we go out here to the vehicle just to be safe, okay? So that's always a good idea because, like I say, they can explode and that sulfuric acid comes out and gets on you. It's not good. Protective clothing. I'm going to wear my grave digger shirt anyway today, but anyway, it's a good idea to have the right kind of protective equipment. Even in some cases, if you know that battery is bad and you can smell that sulfur smell, it might not be a bad idea to get one of those face shields and put it on, okay? Just so it don't get on your face. Not too worried about my clothes, but I am worried about my face and my eyes, okay? Just to be honest about it. All right, never smoke or use an open flame around the battery. Duh, okay? Let's just don't do that. All right, no smoking around the batteries. Most shops don't let you smoke anyway in there, right? So, no smoking, no torches, no little butane torches or anything like that around the battery. Let's be safe, be smart, come on. Never attempt to jump start or charge a frozen battery. We talked about that in the battery basics video, okay? Be very careful with a frozen battery. And if you just even think that it's frozen, if it's below 32 degrees and it's dead, you know that electrolyte is getting close to 1 on the specific gravity, okay? And if it's 1, or just even a little bit more than 1, it's water and it can freeze, okay? The higher the specific gravity, also the higher the freeze point, okay? So, when it gets down to 1, it's water, okay? All that acid has been absorbed into the plates, and so, as I recommended before, if you've got a battery like that and it's outside, take the battery out of the carburetor carefully, bring it inside, bring it in the garage or whatever, let it warm up before you charge it. Matter of fact, you can't get an accurate test on a battery that's that cold anyway, okay? The batteries test are almost always at room temperature, 75, 80 degrees, okay? So you can't get an accurate test of the condition of the battery. You know it's discharged, you know it doesn't have very much voltage in it, that's true. But you can't really test it when it's frozen or even 40 degrees. It's not a good test. Battery needs to warm up, needs to be normal operating temperature to test the battery. Whatever test that you do, any of these tests that we do, it needs to be at operating temperature or pretty close to it. All right, page 246 still, symptoms of a defective or weak battery, okay? Number 1, it uses water in 1 or more cells. A lot of batteries today are still maintenance free, but they still have caps on the top where you can take that cap off and you can see inside of it. There's a picture there, figure 18.1. So you can take that cap off and you can look inside, and they should all be equal level across there, okay? If one cell continues to use more water than the others, there's something wrong there. It's just not working right, okay? So that's an indication of a bad cell there, and possibly, the only way to fix that obviously is replace the battery as a whole, okay? Number 2, excessive corrosion on the battery cables or connections. Corrosion is more likely to occur if the battery is sulfated, okay? If it's producing too much of this sulfate, and it creates hot spots on the plates. And when the battery is being charged, the acid fumes are forced out of the vent holes, okay, and onto the battery cables, connections, and even the battery tray underneath the battery. So if you have excessive corrosion, like figure 18.2 there, all right, then even if the battery has good voltage, there's a problem there. It's sulfating too much, it's putting out too much gas, and it's reacting with the battery cables and the nuts and bolts that hold that together, and even possibly the hold down and things like that. So if I raise the hood on a car, they've been having trouble starting the car, and I raise the hood and it's all green around that thing, that's what you do. Sell them a battery, clean up the battery cables, clean up the whole area around it, okay? Not just the cables, clean up everything with baking soda mix and water or battery cleaner, which I've got some battery cleaner out here I'll show you in a minute. And but clean up that whole area real good. Replace the cables if needed. Okay, sometimes those cables need to be replaced. That battery acid can eat all the way back up into the insulation of the cable, and it needs to be replaced. Okay, so clean it up good. Do your customer good service there. All right, but replace the battery. If it's really bad corroded, it didn't do that just because. All right, it's because that acid and stuff is getting out. All right, number 3, slow cranking or slower than normal cranking, engine cranking. When the capacity of the battery is reduced due to damage or age, it is less likely to be able to supply the necessary current, okay, for starting the engine, especially during cold weather. So we talked about battery ratings yesterday. Yeah, I know I'm touching my face, but I've been home all day and washed my hand like several times, all right, so it's all good. All right, it's hot out here and I'm sweating, all right? So, anyway, uses too much water in one cell, excessive corrosion, and slower than normal cranking. So if you have a condition where the engine cranks too slow, again, we start with the battery. We start most all diagnoses with the battery. We have to have a good charged battery, good, clean, tight connections before we test anything else. If that battery's weak, that starter's not going to crank as good as it should. It's just that simple. I don't know how many times I've seen people put a starter on a car. Oh, that thing needs a starter. Well, how do you know? Okay, you got to have a good battery first. Put a new starter on it, and with a brand new starter on an old engine, it might crank a little bit better. Okay, it might crank a little bit better. You might think you've got it fixed, but you better check that battery first. Really, better check the battery first. Okay, moving on. Tech tip at the top of page 247, dynamic versus open circuit voltage. So an open circuit voltage test is a little bit about like the one we're going to do today here, this state of charge test. Okay, and it says that it is the voltage of the battery that exists without a load being applied. Okay, so that's just putting the voltmeter on the battery, positive, negative. What does it read? Now, you can't just do that anytime because battery voltage changes from time to time. Okay, and when we do the test here, it's going to tell us to turn the headlights on for a minute and then turn them off to remove any like surface charge that might be there. So I was always taught that this this open circuit voltage test could best be done after the vehicle had set really overnight. Okay, it's set overnight, nothing's been turned on, you haven't started it yet this morning, and you put it on there, and whatever it reads in is a very accurate reading of that battery condition with a voltmeter test, okay? Because it is in its natural state, it's at the right temperature hopefully, it hasn't been charged, discharged, and all that kind of stuff going on. It's calmed down, okay? Batteries, the voltage in the battery changes with different conditions, right? That electrolyte moves around a little bit. When it gets hotter, colder, when things are turned on, turned off, charged, uncharged, or discharged, so forth. So, for it to be in its natural state, you know, the best time to do that is at least, let's say, a few hours without any activity, but overnight. So the dynamic voltage test there also is the voltage of the power source battery with the circuit in operation. Okay, a vehicle, for example, may exhibit has 14.6 volts or more, but the voltage will drop when the battery is put under load, such as cranking. Okay, so here's where you've got to look and find out, know what's expected during cranking. How much voltage drop should there be when the engine's cranking? Okay, a lot of times it goes down to about 10 volts. Okay, and that's a good reading there typically. But that's just for a very short amount of time, and it recovers. Okay, so excuse me. All right, so if the dynamic voltage is lower than specified, the battery must be weak, or a defective circuit, or the circuit may be defective. So if that voltage drops more than expected, you got to check the starter, you got to check the battery cables, and you have to check the battery also. Okay, very nice. Spider just dropped down right in front of me here. Okay, that's being in the garage at home. All right, battery maintenance. Most newer style batteries are maintenance free. That's pretty much it. Most newer style batteries are maintenance free. Most of them are sealed. You can't add any water. And if we are going to add water, what kind are we going to add to it? Remember? Distilled water, right? Okay. So, most of them are maintenance free. About the only thing you can do is clean the terminals. It talks about that at the bottom of page 247. Battery terminal cleaning. And so anytime we're going to do any kind of test, electrical test, like I say, the battery needs to be in a good state of health, good charge, and battery cables need to be clean and tight, properly tightened. Okay? Now they show you in figure 18.3 there, uses some diet soft drink to clean battery cables. What's that tell you about diet drinks? I don't know. It neutralizes the battery acid. I wonder what it does to your stomach. I'm not a doctor. Just curious there. Okay. So, but yes, you can do that if you don't have any battery cleaner. You can clean up those cables with some diet soda there and an appropriate wire brush and then water to rinse it off. Okay? All right. So all those loose connections and dirty connections need to be clean and tight. Then he mentions again at the bottom of the page the battery hold downs. We talked about that yesterday a little bit or in our other video. So the battery hold downs are key, they're important, they're there for a reason. Put them back. Okay? Just put them back like they're supposed to be, and then everybody be happy. Turn the page. Page 248, battery voltage test. Okay, so that's where we're going to do this on the car out here in just a second. State of charge test. Battery testing. Testing the battery voltage with a voltmeter is a simple method to determine the state of charge of any battery. Okay? The voltage of the battery does not necessarily indicate where the battery can perform satisfactorily, but it does indicate to the technician more about the battery's condition than a simple visual inspection. So obviously we start with visual inspection, then we hook a voltmeter up, and today we have these very smart battery chargers that have voltmeters on them and all that stuff, and that's what I use for the voltmeter there. I'll hook that up, set it up, turn it on, and see what the voltage is using that voltmeter on these battery chargers, because they're very smart and they work really good, but they're also pretty expensive. So you can use a $59 Craftsman voltmeter here on this test. All right? Okay. All right, so I'm not going to go through that test there because we're going to do it on the worksheet, okay? But I did want you to point out these charts that are here, okay? Chart 18.1, this is also on our worksheet, but if our voltage is at 12.6 or higher, right, then it's probably true that the battery's at 100% charge, okay? If it's 12.4, it's 75%. If it's 12.2, etc., etc. If it's below 11.9, it's discharged. Okay? So it gives you a pretty good idea. Now this test run correctly, as we're going to do on the vehicle out here. After it's been sitting for a while and we take the surface charge off, what does that voltage read? Okay? Again, 12.6 is fully charged, right? 6 cells, 2.1 volts per cell. All right? Okay, just across the page there, 18.2 is the specific gravity. We talked about specific gravity yesterday. So, supposed to be 1270, wasn't it? Wasn't that what the fully charged battery was? So it says 1265 or higher is 100%. 1225 is 75%. 1190 is 50%. 1155 is 25%. Chart 18.2 there. So you see the comparison with measuring voltage and specific gravity. The correlation there is right directly related, okay? So if you have a refractor or a hydrometer testing, you can test that specific gravity, but honestly, I don't ever do it that way. Again, most batteries are sealed and you can't get to that. You usually do it just with the voltmeter on this particular test, okay? All right. Now, at the top of the page there on 249, I do want to mention that in the green box. He talks about battery charging there and about voltage. Okay? So basically what he's saying there, if you hook a battery charger up, and he set it on 40 amps is what he says here. But if you turn the battery charger on and start charging the battery, and you're watching that voltage with your voltmeter or with the machine that's hooked to it, and that voltage pretty steadily increases. It goes, you know, maybe from 10 or whatever it started at to 12 to 13 to 14 to 15. And if it gets to 16 volts, you better turn the battery charger off. Okay? Better just go ahead and turn it off. Okay? Because the battery has lost its ability to control that stabilizer function that we talked about in the other video. See, this is where this comes into play also. If the battery cannot control that and stabilize itself when current's applied to it, it is bad. Okay? I don't know necessarily, you know, technically how to explain that, but the electrolyte is coming off the cells or the acid's coming off the cells into the electrolyte, and it's just going way past what it's designed to do. So I've seen this happen several times, many times. If that battery takes too much of a charge, voltage-wise, if it goes past 16 and it keeps going, you better turn it off, okay? You're going to have some gassing occur and things are going to get nasty, okay? So, word of the wise, that does happen, and you need to be very careful there. So that's basically what it says there in the green box. Okay. All right, so they also have a chart there, 18.5, on reading that hydrometer there. It's a pretty cool chart. It talks about the relationship of temperature and the readings that you get there and how to adjust that for that hydrometer reading, okay, and so forth. Again, we don't do that very much. But it does note, it says, this should be done at temperatures of, the correct reading, temperature should be above or below 80 degrees. Interesting. Again, about normal temperature, 70, 75, 80 degrees. Okay? Okay. Hopefully that helps a little bit. That gets us started. Let's move out to the car. We're going to use my Jeep here, and we're going to look at this battery state of charge test live and it's 43, okay? So if you have 43, you want to go ahead and fill this out. I don't have mine filled out because I don't want to give you the answers as I'm showing it to you, okay? All right, I'm going to take the camera off the stand there. We're going to step right outside here and see what this looks like. All right, here we go. Stay with me. Try not to shake the camera too much. I just did. So I'm going to do this kind of one-handed. I got the camera in my hand. I don't have any other fancy cameras on my head or whatever, or a cameraman, okay? So here we go. All right, battery state of charge test. All right, it's 2003 Jeep Wrangler. All right, belongs to me. So step one, a lot of times as it says check service information for the specified method for determining state of charge of the battery. Well, the one we just read in the textbook and the one we have on here is pretty standard, but it's always a good place to start with service information because things can vary sometimes, all right? Okay, so a typical state of charge test includes the following. Set the voltmeter to DC volts. Okay, so we got a voltmeter right here. I'll turn it on. And it's on DC volts. Volts right here. It says volt there. But we have this one's DC because it has the straight lines across the let me back this deal up just a little bit. There we go. Have the straight lines across the V there. Otherwise, this is AC voltage over here. So we see right off we got 12.61 volts. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So connect the leads to the positive and negative. All right, I've got that over here. Got the positive lead hooked to the positive cable. The negative lead hooked to the negative cable. All right, and it reads 12.6. All right, now it says step number, get this hill situated. Step number 4, turn on the headlights for about 1 minute or until the battery load starts dropping to remove the surface charge. So let's go over here. Turn on the headlights. Reach right in here. turn the headlights on. Okay. Anybody timing that? 1 minute. Let's see what the voltmeter's doing. All right, we got the headlights on. Park lights are on. Okay, well, we see right off the bat that it's already dropping. We went from 12.61 to 12.29. So it says turn on the headlights for about 1 minute or until the battery voltage starts dropping to remove the surface charge. Well, it dropped to 12.9 there, or I'm sorry, to 12.29, but then it stopped. So you might expect a little bit of drop there, okay? We're just going to wait here just a little while longer and see what it does. While we're doing that, let's just go ahead and look at this battery here. And we covered some of these battery things yesterday or on the other video. See, this one's rated at 800 cold cranking amps. Remember, that's at 0 degrees. It has a reserve capacity of 115 minutes. Obviously, it's a 12-volt system. Okay, we see right down here, talking about dates, there's a label right there that says 9 of 17. Well, that's when this battery was built. I bought it in November of 17, and is when I put it in the truck, or the Jeep. It is a Super Start battery, which I'm not sure why I chose that one that day. I usually like interstate batteries, which I'll show you that in a minute. But you also see all of the, oh my goodness, look what I did. I forgot to put my safety glasses on. See? The label on there reminded me. Good job. Forgot to put my safety glasses on. All right, I've got them on now. Okay, got them on. Got my safety glasses on. Here we go. That's better. You can laugh if you want. Shield eyes, explosive gases, blindness. Yeah, how about that? Injury. Keep out of reach of children. Sulfuric acid. Read all the instructions. Flush eyes immediately. Get medical help fast. They're serious about that. Okay. All right. So we've had the headlights on for a minute at least now, because I had to go get my glasses. We're still at 12.2. All right. Now it says turn the headlights off and see what it says. Turn the headlights off. Now look at what it's doing. It's coming back up a little bit. That's what I mean by the battery being able to control itself a little bit there. The load's gone now. It's not running. It didn't charge itself back up. It's just stabilizing itself. Okay? Came back up to 12.5. Let's wait just a minute and see what it comes back to before we answer question 5 or step 5 there on 2. Now the engine's warm on this. I had it running a little bit while ago, and so that's why it said 12.6 a while ago. I can tell you for a fact that after it sits for a while, like overnight, sometimes it's not 12.6. This battery is 2.5 years old. It's probably about done. It's probably only a 2-year battery. But it's coming back up to 12.5 now. 12.5. That's not too bad. I don't have any trouble starting the truck. It starts fine. We'll do that here in just a second. So it looks like the answer on question 2, step 5, or